All right, we are on. John Petersen, thank you for being with me today.
Hey, how's it going, Kevin?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. It's Murphy's Law, but we made it.
Made it, albeit but a little late.
Yes, sir. All right, cool. So yeah, I've been watching you, Faye, and Noka for a while now. You guys are hosting the Apostate Alliance, which airs every Sunday on The Rage. Just want to give some promo. We'll give some more. I think you guys are doing a show tomorrow, right?
Yep. Tomorrow we're going to be talking to, in a little departure from our normal format, we will be talking to a lifelong non-believer.
All right, awesome.
Not an apostate.
The Rational Canadian Atheist?
Rational Canadian Atheist, yep.
Cool. All right. And so, speaking of that, I want to know a bit about your background. Were you raised secular, or how did you come up?
Well, during some of my childhood, it was a family affair. We would go to church. My father was quite big into the church. He even a few times filled in and did sermons. But then there was also a time for a while there when I was a teenager when my family stopped going to church, and I'd get picked up by other people in the church, and I was still going to church. And then I got away from it in my teens, still held a God belief. And it wasn't until my mid-30s I started doubting, it wasn't like there wasn't like this epiphanous moment or anything. It was just like over time, I would think of different things. And then there was this fellow that I worked with. Matter of fact, I was the manager, and he was working for me, and he didn't show up to work for a few days, and so we had spent some time outside of work. So on my lunch break, I went over to his house and to see what the heck was wrong with him, and here he was in this deep depression, this angst. Over something, that was going wrong in his life. And then he was talking about how, what does life mean anyway? I mean, you live, you die. There's nothing afterwards. Something to that effect. It's been so many years now, but he kind of planted a kernel in my mind, and I didn't go down the same rabbit hole as him at that moment, and let it depress me and stop living my life. But then it just got me thinking, and then the more I looked into it, the more I thought about it, I eventually decided that the idea of an afterlife and the idea of a God watching over all of us was a fantasy.
Right, makes sense. So what sparked you to become public about this? What made you want to be a kind of a vocal atheist?
Well, I mean, I guess I got to give credit where credit is due. I started watching the Non Sequitur show.
All right.
And I became, a pretty big fan of that show. Got to know both of the hosts of that show, and there was a few times they let me on. And then Steve McRae, one of the hosts, had his own channel called The Great Debate Community. A name, and just for the sake of accuracy, that is a name and a concept that he appropriated from a group of people. Great Debate Community that was something that was established long before Steve McRae hit the scene, and somehow he appropriated that and turned it into his own channel. I wasn't aware of the whole history behind that when I went on his channel, but he was allowing me to do streams on his channel, and I would do panel discussions, and we would talk different issues. We weren't always talking about atheism, but I was on social media as an atheist, you know, and all the chats and stuff like that. And then I met Noka Suchi, just because I was on YouTube, like going around looking at different atheist content. And Noka Suchi let me into a stream one day on his channel, and we got to know each other. And I started my own channel during this time too, called the Amateur Conversationalist, where I would bring people on one-on-one from the atheist community and talk about things that maybe the atheist community didn't know about these individuals, you know, like, you know, other things in their life, you know, like I had Jim Majors on, and we talked about how he runs a farm, has goats, and raises horses and what have you. And from there, it just grew. It just grew out of my relationship with Noka Suchi. You know, I eventually stopped doing content on the great debate community. That's a whole other story we could talk about some other time. But then Noka Suchi started letting me come on, and then you know, started letting me, you know, do content. And I came up with the Apostate Alliance because I met Faye through social media, and I was unaware of what ex-Muslim atheists go through.
Yeah, it's pretty big for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty atrocious, some of the things that can happen in other countries to atheists. And that really, you know, I got to know Faye really well, and I got to know some of her ex-Muslim friends on social media, and it just really struck me as, you know, an issue that needed to be out there and known by more people. And so then I created the Apostate Alliance. We did the first episode was on my channel, I believe. Yeah, it was on the Amateur Conversationalist. Me and Faye, and we interviewed Ali Malik. And then that was maybe in late November of last year. And then I took 3 or 4 months off. I was going through some shit. I took like 2-3 months off of doing any YouTube stuff. And when I came back, I decided to ask Noka Suchi if I could move the podcast over there. You know, I had a little bit bigger of a platform. You know, my channel hadn't been established very long. And so we started doing the Apostate Alliance on Nock's channel, right where we are now, 11 a.m. on Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern on Sundays. And then I started doing content with Noka Suchi, you know, where we review different things. And
yeah, I love your guys' review videos.
Yeah, we review stuff, and then we have that open room on Wednesday nights. We like to have Christians come by and challenge us, talk to them. There's quite a few Christians in the community that we are on good terms with, but there's also a lot of extremist Christians in the YouTube community that we are not on good terms with.
Yeah, I've noticed you guys tend to weed out some of the worst of the worst over there, as far as those guys go.
Right. I mean, there's just certain people that, I mean, there's really, when you engage with someone who has opinions other than your own, if your mind's going to be changed or their mind's going to be changed, it's all going to be up to that individual to change. You're never going to change someone's ideas. You can just give them your ideas, and then it's up to them whether they, you know, consider those opposing ideas and change their mind about what they think. But there's a certain crowd over in the Christian community that they're never even going to consider what we say as atheists. They just want to harass and insult and you know, feel their superiority, that they have the answer to everything because they believe in God. And yeah, those types are just what we call lols cows. They're only worth, you know, going after and poking fun at and, exposing on air their hatred and bigotry towards different things. But then the vast majority of the Christian community that's on YouTube, although they don't have the same ideas, they're not, complete pricks. And there's some very nice people in the Christian community I've become friends with, and I like them very much. And they can come on and we get reasonable discussions, and that's what I like to do. And then you get to where sometimes it's fun to bring one of those Law's cows on and just let them talk and show the world what type of people they are.
Sometimes I don't know how you guys do it. Like, my patience would have just fractured on Smokey Saint or somebody like that.
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't know if you saw it here maybe a week ago. Smokey was in the live chat, and I stopped what we were doing right then and there, and I went full on Tourette syndrome on him for about 2 minutes. Because he was saying some stupid shit, and, something about debating. And here I had challenged him to a debate long ago in a modern day debate chat where we're both mods. And he said, and I said, there's only 2 stipulations. I'll debate you. You can choose the topic. I don't care what it is. I'll debate you. The only 2 rules I have is, 1, there needs to be timed responses, which there always is on MDD. I said, 2, no insults.
Yep.
And he said, oh, no, like you haven't earned enough respect from me to say no insults. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah, that's not how you start a conversation with somebody. It's crazy. And some of the other, I don't know if that was the same stream, but I know he did get, I think somebody already said, if he would have said some of the things he was saying on the comments, in person, somebody would have hit him in the face, I mean, it was ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. I remember seeing somebody comment that, like, I mean, and like I say, that crowd, his whole crowd, they're really not worth engaging with, except for fun,
right.
And except for to expose them for what they are. But that being said, I have agreed to debate Gavin Herleman later this month.
Okay, all right. Is that going to be on the Rage, or is that going to be on another debate channel?
He think we're going to ask James if we can do it on that channel. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm not going to go on Smokey's channel. I can tell you that. I wouldn't go on Smokey's channel. I wouldn't go on John Maddox's channel.
Right.
Gill's channel, Praise's channel, any of those guys. I just don't have enough respect for them to go do anything on their channel. James, he's a Christian. I have enough respect for him. If he'll allow us to do it on his channel. Now, he might not want us to do it on his channel because James has built a pretty big channel over there. I mean, I'm just amazed at what he's done in like the last year or so. He, I guess, is on good terms with Gavin, but James is a smart enough man to see what Gavin is. He might hear the idea of the debate we want to have and not want any part of it, and wouldn't blame him at all. Yeah, we'll figure out where we're going to do it. The topic is going to be, does the Abrahamic God exist?
Okay.
Which I love that I pinned him down to that, because first he had suggested, and we were on Jeff Spatchcock's stream when this all came about, because we were talking about the debate between Nock, and of course he was crowing about how well he did. And I don't know if you watched that debate, but he didn't do well at all against Nock and Suchi.
It is in my watch later.
Yeah, and at first he said, well, yeah, we can debate on whether God exists. And I'm like, okay, what if we say we'll debate on whether the Abrahamic God exists?
Right.
He said, I'm good with that. And I was just like, excellent. And, because the discussion of whether a God exists is a much different subject, then does the Abrahamic God exist?
Right, absolutely.
Because there are arguments that you can use to indicate that the Abrahamic God does not exist. But that's not going to just dispositively prove that no God exists, because as you probably know, and this is something that Gavin was tripping over in that debate, the concept of falsifiability. The proposition no gods exist in the universe, or no gods exist at all, is an unfalsifiable proposition, because as Gavin pointed out, without really knowing what he was talking about in that debate, you would have to examine the entire universe to be able to say, yep, there's no gods anywhere. And not only that, but because of what the general definition of a god is, you would not have to only examine the entire universe, you would have to examine outside of the universe, since they claim that God is, beyond space and time. So it's unfalsifiable. I mean, if you, when you do science experiments and things like that, essentially what they're doing is they come up with a hypothesis, they come up with a proposition, and then they try to falsify it.
Right.
They're not really trying to prove what their hypothesis is, but trying to falsify it.
That's why I have such a problem with metaphysical debates. Anything like where you can't prove or disprove the point. It's all in logic, I guess.
Right. I mean, and it's and what a lot of Christians do is they want to conflate the metaphysical with the physical. They we had a discussion on that last open room we had, and who the heck was it? That guy Sunflower.
Yeah.
He was trying to say, well, why do you just rule it out of hand, And Leo and other people were, well, because we've never seen anything that is, supernatural. But then he made another point that I agreed with, because ruling out creationism out of hand, if you take the God equation out of it, I mean, that's still, however minute, could be a possibility. I mean, because maybe our solar system got seeded by some higher intelligence in the universe. They could have sent the genetic matter here that spawned life on this planet. But it's such a minute possibility,
right?
But then they want to say that this being outside of everything that we experience is what created us, and that's where it falls apart for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a slippery slope to go down with those guys. So I don't want to go too far off here, but I did want to ask you, we were talking earlier about you have some conversations with Faye, and you've talked to probably a lot more ex-Muslims than I have. Do you think in this regard there's that Westerners have a kind of a moral obligation to approach Islam? Do you think there's a maybe I don't want to say a moral high ground, but some kind of we have maybe an advantage where we can help to educate people in that area?
Well, yeah, I mean, as atheists, I guess what my goal is to get the information out there. There's so many people, because we as atheists in the Western world, we like to bitch about how we're treated, by believers, by Christians, and how they look down upon us and things like that. And there are some horrific things that happen even in the Western world, where, I've heard of many teens that have been disowned by their family and thrown out of the house because they came out as atheists. Of course, this whole thing about, and it wasn't necessarily atheists they did it to, but like, there was a time that religious people were going around and shooting doctors who provided abortions.
Right.
And there's, some very fringe groups, even in our country, the NIFB, they advocate for the killing of gay people. They would absolutely love it if we became a theocracy. You've got outliers like the Westboro Baptist Church. But when it comes to the Muslim countries, there is a dozen Muslim countries where you can be imprisoned and or executed for being an atheist or for blaspheming. And even in the countries where it's not against the law, the Muslim, and this isn't all Muslims, but there's a contingency of Muslims that will take it upon themselves to do an honor killing. If in a lot of these Muslim countries, if they find out that you're gay, there's a practice of they will take you to the tallest building and throw you off of it.
Right.
There's many ex-Muslims I've come in contact with. There's been people I've asked to come on the show, and they have had to decline because they would be in peril if anybody found out they were atheists.
Or coming on anonymously. I think you've had that
right,
time or two before.
Come on anonymously. And I want that information to be known, especially to people in the West, because when I met Faye and started meeting all these other ex-Muslims, I was just astounded. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why haven't I seen this in the news? Like, why is this not a bigger thing? It's out there in the zeitgeist more now because of all the social media and everything. But like, okay, this has been happening for decades, centuries maybe,
Right.
So when I was a kid, we didn't have all the social media. It was just the three main channels. You'd watch the news at night. That's where you get your news. ABC, NBC, CBS. And this was going on back when I was a kid. Why wasn't that like the top story?
Yeah, I feel like for Westerners, we get labeled as Islamophobes if we share basically just the news of the day in those type of places, But they'll act like we're being extreme,
It's just it's crazy. The idea that, and again, it's not all Muslims, okay, but there's a certain portion of extremist Muslims that, the idea that they're going to kill you because you don't believe the same thing they believe, it just doesn't, it doesn't click, and the idea that we have relationships, if you're a country in the world, you pretty much have to have a relationship with every country in some form or another. But the idea that we're in bed with countries like Saudi Arabia, I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but countries like that, and Saudi Arabia is one of the more progressive ones, but there's other Muslim countries that we have relationships with where this stuff is going on. And unless you dig down in and look for it in social media and on news platforms on the web, you don't hear about this stuff.
Yeah.
And the idea that this kind of stuff is going on, and it's not like every news agency is screaming about it at the top of their lungs, just doesn't really make any sense to me.
It seems to me like there's definitely a bit of a capitalist agenda there. They don't want us to realize what's going on over there because that might hurt our relations with them. That might hurt our trade with them, and that's really what the people in power are interested in keeping.
So what was it, of the 17 or 18 hijackers, 14 or 15 of them were Saudi Arabia, and then what do? We go attack Iraq.
Yeah.
Now, the outcome of that, I don't know what the country is like now, but the outcome of getting rid of Saddam Hussein, that's a good thing. But why didn't we cut ties with Saudi Arabia? And that's even not a very tenable proposition, because just because 14 or 15 Saudis, perpetrated 9/11 doesn't necessarily mean that the government, that the whole, citizenry of Saudi Arabia is culpable in that. But we attacked Iraq. Why did we attack Iraq?
Yeah, I think there was, I don't know if it was ever proven, but I do remember there being some information leak that actually they said the Saudi government was in fact training ISIS soldiers, but I don't think they could prove it. So,
I mean, just from a humanitarian standpoint, this nation was, created some 245 years ago. And, we don't even, we haven't even fully come to live up to the tenets of the government that was created. But then we go around and we have relationships around the world with these despotic countries that seem to be living, in the, 1,000 years ago, as far as their ideologies about, how they treat women, how they treat homosexuals, how they treat differing viewpoints. And I just, what I, as an individual, all I can do is talk about it and try and do what I'm doing, to get the word out, about what's happening to these people. I think increasingly that the Muslim faith, those that follow the Muslim faith, there are becoming more and more mainstream, more and more, less and less radical. That it's a finite percentage of the Muslim faith that is like very extreme, very radical. And but the problem is there's 1.8, 1.7, 1.8 Muslims on the planet, and even if you say that it's a percentage less than 1% that are radicals, that would still equate to billions of people that are out there wanting to blow people up and kill homosexuals and put atheists in jail or whatever. So
you could even equate that to like the Crusades. I mean, if you're comparing to Christianity, it was kind of similar dynamics.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Christianity, if you look at the history of Christianity, they don't have the moral high ground for much of history. It's the same, now with very fringe groups in Christianity, like a couple of the earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just that my goal is that, I can't even sit back and really bitch about how atheists are treated in the United States. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel, and it doesn't, if a Christian wants to, badmouth me or whatever, I mean, that's nothing compared to being put to death, So yeah, I mean, that's why this is important to get that word out. It's not that there's not ideologies and thinking here in our own country that shouldn't be challenged, but that it's just the consequences of what happens to atheists in Muslim countries is just far greater than what can happen to atheists in the westernized countries.
Absolutely. So, I mean, would you call that like kind of a primary mission of the show, to expose that type of extremism, especially when you're coming out as an apostate? I mean, kind of the idea, right?
Well, right. And we whether we talk to apostates of all religions, we try and, keep it mostly talking to ex-Muslims. But no matter who's on the show, we always open the show with some stories from that part of the world, things that have happened to people, sometimes good stories where, somebody's running a fundraiser. There was somebody that we had interviewed, Eve the Apple, and now she has decided she needs to get out of where she is in Africa, and that she's no longer safe, people. So they did a little fundraiser and got her the money for her passport. It only took one day. That was just like $60, $70. And then now there's a fundraiser going on to raise her some money to move on and get to a safer location.
Excellent, excellent.
Real quick, Kevin, I got to grab a bottle of water.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. And if anybody listening is interested, we have links to John's Twitter page, as well as The Rage and Faye the Most Gracious on YouTube in the description. You go check them out. And I saw you, John. Were you on Godless Granny's channel the other day? Have you been?
Yeah, yep. I've been on her channel a few times.
Oh, all right. Awesome. I didn't know that.
She's one of my favorite new creators.
All right.
I love her. I love her videos.
Yeah, I've only seen a couple, but I always enjoy her Twitter posts ever since you guys had her on. I really like the Women of Atheist Roundtable too. Are you guys gonna be doing that again?
Yeah, right now I'm working on the episode for October. It's going to, instead of being on the third Thursday, it's going to be on the third Friday of the month, because we're going to do atheist women from down under. So while it will be Friday evening for us, it'll be Saturday morning for them.
Right, excellent.
And so far, Jen's Little Corner has committed, and I may be saying that wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right, and then Nervardi is going to be on.
Okay.
Those are the two panelists so far, and I've got feelers out to other Aussies, and it'll probably be like it's been, it'll be 4 or 5 panelists. One of the panelists will lead the conversation, and I will go backstage and let them have the floor for the podcast. And I'll just be there for introductions in the beginning and come back at the end to ask them the audience questions.
Excellent, excellent. All right, I have a couple more questions for you. I wanted to talk about, this kind of got shoved under earlier. So as far as activism, would you say, what do you think of the term like positive atheism, like what they're using on the Atheist Experience and stuff like that, where we're trying to, this has kind of been my reservation with engaging with people, because I don't want to get into the dumpster fire debates or anything like that. And I've noticed there are some skeptics who are bordering on cynicism here and maybe turning some people away from what we're doing. What do you think about that?
Well, I would agree with you that there is certain people that seem to have that. I mean, maybe not as an agenda, but that's the way it comes off when they act that way. It seems like that's what they're going for. That brings up the point right there too, that when religious people want to claim that atheism is this like monolithic organization and all atheists think the same and act the same, and what you're bringing up right now, there's another proof that that's a false claim, because it's all well and good to talk about atheism and to engage with religious people on atheism, but like the people that you're talking about, they seem to want to, it's almost as if they're proselytizing atheism, that they see this day where the whole world will be secular and will be atheists, and that's just, I don't see that ever happening. I mean, because even as an atheist, I recognize the fact that there's many human beings on this planet that need religion. I mean, that would not be able to operate without religion. And there's also a contingency of those people that if it was proven to them, proof positive that there's no God in the sky, they would start doing, they would go crazy. They would go crazy and they would do crazy things. I mean, I've had Christians admit to me in private and even live in a stream that if there was no God, there would be no reason for them to be moral.
Right, right.
So yeah, I mean, when it comes to the more extremist atheists, yeah, they do the rest of us kind of a disservice. Like, for instance, and I'm alone in this, or in a very small minority in this, but like when it comes to LaVeyan Satanism, the Church of Satan,
Right.
I wish that he had never created that, okay? Because when he appropriated the term Satanism and Church of Satan, of course, the connotations that put in religious people's minds is, we are of Satan. I mean, and that's not the kind of Satanists they are, of course, but religious people hear Satan, well, then you're a person that worships Satan. And they already were putting that on atheists. And so I just, and to me, LaVey was like one of the greatest trolls ever,
Yeah.
in creating the Church of Satan. But I think in the larger picture, it did a disservice to the idea of atheism.
Yeah, kind of like the Ron Hubbard effect, now we have to explain Scientology away, even though it has nothing to do with science, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Oh, I don't want my mouth dry.
Oh, yeah, get you a drink.
I don't even smoke weed anymore.
Oh, you quit? Oh, man, you got to come out to California. We're burning all day, every day.
Yeah, not just the weed.
There you go. I'm right in the middle of it, too. It's great.
Yeah, it's not that I don't want to smoke weed, it's that I can't. I am right now, as they say, on paper.
Got you.
So, what do you think there, Kev? Any more questions for me?
No, I think we did great. We were running a little late, so with all that considered, I just want to make sure we get everything out and get everybody the info to your show tomorrow. It's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern.
Yep. Rational Canadian Atheist. Faye will maybe only be there for a short time. She reached out to me earlier. She's not feeling too well. I'm hoping she'll show up for the start of the show at any rate. But yeah, stop on by and watch that. And come see us every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it myself. And yeah, man.
You want me to do something for you here to end it?
Yeah, go for it. You can end it up.
I don't know if you ever heard me do this on air before, but I'll share a little poem with you if you want.
All right.
You've got the right to believe in God, and I've got the right to be lucid. Sounds harsh, but it's not bigoted, because you weren't born with belief in your head. Bloody, bawling, buck naked enter all of us. All we know is what we learn and what they tell us. So please don't mind if I don't take you serious about this cat named God and this boy Jesus. Or maybe you're down with Allah or you're Jewish. Doesn't matter, every deity's cartoonish. Might as well be worshiping the Three Stooges. At least the Stooges exist, I've got the evidence. If E equals MC squared is valid algebra, then E minus MC squared must be God's formula, which means God adds up to nada. Never looked at it that way, did you? It's a wonderful world not built in 7 days. No divine intervention or mysterious ways. When shit doesn't happen, it's not God's grace. And one man in his rib didn't start the human race. You say God's hand guides history? Well, what's the deal with all the tragedy? I lost my place. Do that every time. You say God's hand guides history. Well, what's the deal with all the tragedy? When things go right, if it's his mercy, then when things go wrong, is it his apathy? I mean, if God saved the baby down the well, the million babies that died that day must be in hell. Why would a God pick which evil to repel? The answer is clear. God is fictional. The Vatican was silent during the Holocaust. While slavery reigned, was God's guiding hand lost? Why do we have to wait for Rosa Parks? Which Bible verse reads back of the bus if your skin is dark? Why would you want to be an altar boy? You could wind up really altered, boy. Wind up some sick priest boy toy. And if he's caught, another church, another toy. If a corporation had covered up raping kids, everybody would have flipped their lids. If it had been Microsoft, McDonald's, or some other biz, their stock would have dropped till they were done in. But the Catholic Church, it still stands. And a church's sin was greater than the pedophiles, man. Because a pedophile can't control himself, or maybe he can. But the church was in control when it covered up sins. So if you're a pedophile avoiding the law, just buddy up with that cat cardinal law. Because covering for pedophiles is Vatican protocol. Every one of them's guilty, all the way to John Paul. When John Paul died, we got Benedict. I wonder how many altar boys he tricked. Each unsuspecting lad hand-picked, taken to the rectory and piously dicked. Public prayer's about the public more than the prayer. Can't your God hear you anytime, anywhere? You pray in public to show you're together and to cast light on those who dare differ. Didn't you say there was a judgment day? Well, then why are you bitching about everything today? If we all get it in the end anyway, why the fuck do you care if I'm atheist or gay? It's hard to stand apart from the throng. How many believe just to belong? You've got to die to see if you're wrong. As death draws near, is your faith still strong? In the name of God, people fly planes into buildings, strap on bombs and detonate public gatherings. Some even condone homicide by truck drag. So if I was one of the faithful, I wouldn't be bragging. Just imagine 7 billion people all on the same page. John Lennon knew the score, a modern day sage, taken from us all by some Bible thumper's rage. Yeah, just imagine, what would John sing if he was here today? There is no God up in the sky, no Holy Ghost to deify. It's just her and him and you and I. And when you die, you really die. There are no angels on a wing, no watching over guardian. No one hears the hymns you sing, and every one of us is a supreme being. Well, manic musings these might be, though not uttered from bended knees. I have faith in what I can see. And by the way, there's also no tooth fairy. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, John.
Thanks for having me on, Kevin.
All right. Thanks for coming, and hopefully we'll talk soon, buddy.
Yep.
All right. See you later.